What's up everyone, welcome back to another live stream, back to my pre-market analysis. How is everyone doing? Happy Monday, happy new week. It's basically the end of November already, so literally in 1 month from now is Christmas and the year is gone, and all of a sudden it's 2025. So yeah, it all passes quite quickly. In this session, as you know, in this live stream, we are going to look for the best opportunities for tomorrow trading session. Basically, try to identify at least 2 or 3 potential good setups that we can take advantage of. We look at FX, US indices, commodities, and a little bit of crypto as well. Especially now that everyone is waiting, anticipating eventually when is actually Bitcoin going to touch the 100k mark. Looking at the news, because it's also important to pay attention to the news to see what kind of volatility we can expect, not just tomorrow but also the day after or until the end of the week, because sometimes if we do have a big news event at the end of the week, then the market may behave in a different way until that big day. But the biggest day actually is going to be on Wednesday, where we're going to have GDP in the US and also the core PC, because then on Thursday is going to be Thanksgiving Day, right? So it's going to be bank holiday in the US. Expect really low volatility, especially in the afternoon. And then on Friday it's going to be Black Friday, and we are anticipating the volatility to be back. And sometimes actually the Black Friday day can be quite interesting and can provide great opportunities with some momentum. At least I remember that in the previous years. Today it was quiet. We saw some movements. Price opened with a big gap. I'm not really sure why the gap occurred, but not sure if it is the situation between Russia and Ukraine. But we did open with a big gap, something that we were looking for yesterday. Basically, it confirmed straight away what we were anticipating, without really giving us any opportunity for those trades. Like we're looking for shorts on the dollar, which means longs on the euro, pound, and so on. And that's basically what happened. For tomorrow, we have consumer confidence at 3 p.m. in the UK, and we are going to have the FOMC meeting minutes at 7 p.m. So we'll see if there's anything new in there or not. Then on Wednesday, yes, Wednesday is going to be quite a busy day with the interest rate decision in New Zealand, which is approaching a really interesting level for a potential turn. It's going to be interesting. We're expecting a 50 basis points cut rate. A CPI also in Australia, which is something that's going to be interesting, especially now that it's expecting the CPI to start to increase a little bit. And this looks like it starts to be a pattern across many countries, where we're going to start having the CPI going slightly higher, which eventually can force the hand of the central bankers to continue with this path of rate cut, or at least to pause or be a bit more conservative with the approach that we have seen in the last months. So yeah, let's jump into the market and let's see what we can look at in here, right? So again, just as we mentioned yesterday, if you guys watch the weekly market analysis, basically on Sunday I do similar to what I'm doing today, but more focus on the higher time frame, more for the weekly buys for the weekly. So trying to create a weekly bias and see what levels we can anticipate and look for in today's session and throughout the rest of the week. We are going to look a little bit more into the lower time frame to try to see where the opportunities are, or at least try to find 2-3 good opportunities to look for, which is the advantage of looking at a broader portfolio. By the way, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Let me know also what pairs you usually look for and what opportunities do you guys also like to trade. So yeah, when looking at what we can expect in here, as we mentioned yesterday, or I mentioned yesterday, that there was a little bit of this range, and I was looking to see if price would create some kind of one last fake out of this highs, then move to the downside. Looking at the bigger picture, we are reacting from an interesting level after taking this high and also that high there. I really like that level. It's a fresh supply level that was in there, a decision point that actually managed to make this push downside. Price to trace never really touched it, which means that now on the way back we are seeing that reaction from there. So yeah, that happened on Friday when you had that big spike Friday morning, and now we are somewhere around this level. So we were looking for those shorts. So again, price on the dollar has been quite bullish since the beginning of September, since the end of September. So throughout the month of October and now November, we have been quite bullish on the dollar. and there you go. Now what we have in here is that we had that gap. Price didn't really close the gap, so in some of the assets we may have seen the gap being closed, in some others the price didn't close it. Initially price did manage to break to the downside, so again that was one of the lows that we were looking for in here to eventually start giving us the bias that the dollar index may actually start turning from around this level. The second reaction was already from this demand zone that was a little bit fresh, as we mentioned, but it's already a break of these lows. And then yesterday I mentioned that I was eventually looking for the dollar index to get closer to this range, with the possibility even to continue to go further down. Maybe somewhere in here can be quite interesting. Right, so those will be a little bit of the levels. So for tomorrow, that's more or less what I'm going to be looking for. Okay, first of all, let's see if what price is going to do by now. Is it going to respect this level and start looking a little bit more to the upside? We need to pay attention to see what price is going to do around this this level whenever price closes this gap. And on the other side, if price starts breaking in here, I want to see if there is anything in here that could push price to the upside or not. Otherwise, you may have that fake out and then you have straight away next zone in there. So potential reactions from one of these levels. Again, any green marks that you see in here and in there, those are basically levels where I'm expecting price to bounce from. All right, so anytime you see those green marks in there, that's basically levels where I'm looking for price to bounce. Closing the gap doesn't really mean much to me. I would like to see a little bit more of PA than to be created if price actually has the intention to push further down. Now, it did manage to break that low. We may continue to break more lows in here. So yeah, dollar index does look like that we may start looking for these selling opportunities, which is exactly what we started to anticipate yesterday. This is another level that it looks still interesting in here. All right, so eventually when price does come back closer to this level, that can be quite interesting, and eventually you can even close fight with this gap in here as well. All right, so yeah, that could be eventually an interesting zone for price to bounce. Of course, you do have this upper edge as well, so maybe from here if we extend it, yeah, perhaps in there as well. So we'll see what's going to happen at around this level in here. Of course, now in a bit we're going to look at Eurodollar, pound dollar, and so on, and that can reinforce as well a little bit our bias to complement what we saw just in here on the dollar index. We do have this demand zone. We'll see. It did manage to slightly fake out that level again. We are a little bit in the middle. In the middle, price can do whatever it wants. Okay, it can respect the demand zone. It can break it. It's a little bit more tricky. That's why I'm not biggest fan of trading in the middle. I like to trade a little bit more closer to the extremes because it's quite easier to see if actually that level is holding or not, or if it's going to be broken. So yeah, in the middle, price can do whatever. In the lower time frame, for sure, you can find opportunities. But price can also break the levels quite easier. Now, moving along, we go into the US indices, right? And this was another one that we're looking for. All right, so that was the question yesterday as well, what to expect from the US indices, and you're looking for the US indices to at least retest the previous highs that were created after the US election. All right, so that was something that we were anticipating, and that's what we have in here. At this point, S&P is respecting the double top. Also open with the gap, and then basically price just closed the gap right now. Now, should we anticipate and look for the S&P to actually hold this double top and start moving to the downside? That's a good question mark, right? So what we have in here is that price actually is reacting from an interesting level, which is the extreme of the extremes in here. All right, so that's something that we can look for, or that we could anticipate price eventually to react from. I did mention that within this level there was not really much going on. Everything in here was basically taken already, and my concern was that actually price would get that close to the all-time highs. Eventually the all-time highs would be taken, but apparently it managed to hold it today, and now moving a little bit to the downside. Looking across the different US indices, in my opinion, actually the S&P is the one that is showing a little bit more of weakness in terms of where the low react from. I see this one as an engulf to the downside. I could see this one eventually feeling this spice in there. So that's something to bear in mind. You do have still even this trend line, as you can see, and this structure here can hold price up just as it is doing right now. Then the question mark is, what can we look for in here? right? So should we still, now that price made this move, is there anything still here at the highs that can hold price one more time? That's the next question, right? Because anytime we do create a high, maybe that becomes a new supply, or maybe that ends up creating a new supply after the fact. So that's another one. Maybe can start considering between around this level. That's basically where the gap is, or a little bit in here if you want to be a bit more precise. Again, both levels, they look quite nice eventually for price to react from. What else we can look for, right, is that now we have a little bit of these left shoulders, right? This can be the fake out, and these left shoulders in here can be used, and price can actually bounce from there. And as it looks like, price did manage to create this gap in there. All right, so what I mean by that is that none of these highs in here actually went there to collect the orders. So which means that somewhere in here there could be some kind of reaction on the S&P. All right, so that looks interesting, and we'll see. Again, it's all-time highs. That's always a tricky situation. If it was not all-time highs and we knew exactly where this high was reacting to on the left side, that would be slightly different. But all-time highs, there's always a risk for a new high in here, and usually actually a nice reversal pattern is if you actually create a double top. Like if you create a double top, then the reason for that is that if you do that, then you start attracting more sellers into here the next time that price will go, and so that's the perfect scenario then for price to actually basically bounce from here. So that's something to bear in mind. So S&P, it looks okay. I'll be keeping an eye in here to see what you can expect from this level. Then we have Nasdaq. Nasdaq also moving to the downside. We talked about that scenario. We talked about this important zone in here where price could eventually bounce from, and it's actually bouncing. And then you have the other one at the extreme where eventually Nasdaq could also move to the downside. Nasdaq, we mentioned that price was actually reacting a little bit from this level, which was nice. But we can still have that gap a little bit further down where price eventually can move towards to. So again, quite similar to the S&P. The main difference, is that S&P went really close to the previous high. Again, that level was still fresh. This level in here on the Nasdaq, price actually already reacted from it with this level or with that high. So yeah, maybe this is enough now for the Nasdaq to hold and start moving to downside. This was a structure that we also mentioned yesterday in here. So we'll see what's going to happen. Maybe we can have a little bit more of a sell opportunity in here. Sorry, the Dow is doing differently. Okay, it's moving in a different way. So we created the same gap, but with the gap, it went straight away into new all-time highs. All right, so it's getting really close to this 45. Maybe can be an important key level as well that can find some resistance. Who knows? The reality is that this gap is still open, and price at this point just reacted from this previous level that we had in here. All right, so the previous high, basically price already reacted a few times from that level in here and managing to go all the way, right? So again, we'll see what kind of PA we are going to have around this level. We're going to have some momentum, or price eventually is going to just turn, and eventually can of course close this gap in here to see what's going to happen. Definitely that price can eventually close this gap somewhere at around this level. In there. All right, so that's great. So just to keep an eye on. And DAX as well, kind of bouncing around, reacting from that level that we thought as well yesterday. Again, open with the gap, already closed the gap, and then a little bit in the range. So we'll see. I still like one extreme in there at the highs, but again, it's really close to all-time highs. The price may actually end up going all the way through. Price did manage to break below those lows, and we did manage to break a new low in there. So eventually this can show a little bit of weakness, even though price actually reacted from this interesting level in here on the left side. What you can have is that eventually we can have a fake out in here of these highs. This starts to become a really strong structure, which can eventually attract many people to sell it, which means that we can actually eventually fake out that level. But for now, we do have these highs in here that can still be used, and we can have also eventually that zone that is fresh as well. So that's something to bear in mind in here on the DAX. Looking into crypto, right? So Bitcoin, it ended up respecting exactly the same structure that we had in here yesterday. We talked about this double bottom in here, actually I talked about that this morning, not yesterday. So yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see how price may react from here. We already had a little bit of a reaction, but now it starts to become a resistance, like just literally underneath 100k, not really touching it, which may create some create some anxious for some people that are maybe looking and excited with the idea that Bitcoin may break this 100k. We'll see. We'll see, right? This can be just a way to start creating some fear into some people. Maybe that they think, oh my god, now price may actually goes further down and I'm not closing anything. So we'll see how price is going to behave at around this structure. If we're going to find a kind of some support in here and push to the upside, I don't like that level. If price starts actually going slightly lower than that, in my opinion, we kind of have a lot of compression in here, and all of a sudden you're looking for price to get a little bit closer to this 87,000 mark. All right, so that could be also definitely a zone for price to go, and eventually we can have the previous retest into the previous all-time high, and then eventually move to the upside. Now, yeah, price personally, it looks like, again, everyone's going to be looking at this 100k almost as a level of resistance. So breaking above that level, it kind of opens the door for price to go even further up. And then yes, and then maybe after that we could have that retracement, and then you can eventually have the continuation and go all the way and even higher, right? So I would prefer to see that kind of PA. So I do like this idea. All right, so this actually could be quite interesting. We do have now this kind of structure in here. All right, so we could create some kind of structure just like we have, maybe even break below, just go like this, start to show a little bit indication that price may wants to go slightly lower, and then comes all the way in here. Now breaks finally with 100k, great, maybe some momentum, goes 38, 105 or something like that, but then it kind of has a big sell-off. Right, it has a big sell-off from here, and even go below that low just to get closer to this level, and from here then we can start moving to the upside again. Right, so again, it will create some scarcity in here. Again, first optimism from everyone that price is finally breaking. Okay, let's even go even backwards. So first in here is going to create some scarcity because price is going to start breaking some lows. Maybe some people are going to start trying to sell it, and then price just turns, and now price is starting actually to break to the upside. So many people may actually even jump into here. Finally, let's buy above the 100k, and now we have that flush kind of price basically moving all the way down to the downside. These guys start getting scared, maybe they even completely close their position, and many other traders as well that maybe think, oh my god, this is now kind of moving to the downside, so they close the position, and now it's a good time to finally move and go all the way through. Right, so that would be a nice idea in here on Bitcoin. Again, that would manipulate many traders, many people that are involved with Bitcoin in here, just in a way to eventually continue to push price above this 100k. So yeah, that looks quite nice, to be honest. Ethereum continues with this bullish run, which is something that we have anticipated as well. And when looking especially at this Ethereum Bitcoin, this was something that we were anticipating. That's a beautiful demand where price is reacting from, and we talked about that when price eventually gets to this level, this Ethereum Bitcoin eventually could have the momentum that we haven't seen yet on Ethereum, and it's happening. Right, it's literally happening. Price is indeed moving to the upside right now. Again, the next level definitely to pay attention is around this level, so you may have a little bit more of strength right now on Ethereum comparing with Bitcoin. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. In here, what we are actually noticing is that push to downside on BTC and Ethereum moving a little bit more to the upside. So no surprise with that one. All right, so, and again, breaking above the structure, as I mentioned several weeks ago, it starts open door to go all the way to 3,700. And that's maybe a little bit where we may find a little bit of resistance again. So we'll see. This may happen quite quickly, to be honest. And then Solana as well, just moving, creating new highs in there, and then just moving a little bit to the downside. So we'll see if this is just a fake out in here or not. Now looking at the currency indices, right? Starting with the Euro Index, this is another one that you pay attention to. Again, good reaction from that level. Eventually, this one is still kind of an engulf to the downside. So eventually, I'm still bearish on Euro pairs, but it's about time to have some kind of retracement. All right. So let's see how price may react at around this next structure that we have in here. All right, so that's the main point in there. We do have the gap. Again, the gap is open. Everyone can see it, right? Price never really managed to close the gap in here. So we may have eventually that reaction into that level. And then we'll see what's going to happen. All right, but somewhere around here, expecting a little bit of resistance in here on this Euro index, somewhere around here. All right, and then we have the Yen index, which is another one that we've been following. Eventually expecting price to go a little bit higher in here, so that reaction was really good. We have been looking for longs on the Yen index, which means shorts on the individual yen pairs, and there you go. All right, so again, we mentioned that this level in here was still the valid one. Basically, that's holding price up a little bit, and yes, creating a strong level of resistance, which eventually can be broken and price can get closer into this level in there. So that's what we have in here in terms of the indices, currency indices, US indices, and also crypto. Now, looking into the individual currency pairs. All right, so let's take a look into that and start with the euro dollar. All right, so the euro dollar, quite similar to the dollar index, starting to break to the upside now without really closing the gap, right? So the gap was not closed. Basically, this reaction was perfect. All right, it reacted from this left shoulder that price had just broken. All right, it reacted perfectly from that level. That makes it a little bit of a bullish move. All right, so respecting these levels in here, it makes it a bit bullish, but price can definitely still create some kind of manipulation at around this level and even close the gap or even fake out something in here before moving to the upside. So that's something to bear in mind in here. Perfect. Now, what's next? Like, as you can see, we have a lot of compression already in here. So I could see eventually euro dollar to go even above that high, getting a little bit closer to this structure. Of course, we can look left to try to see where that level is. Again, when you do have such a compression to the downside, eventually when price starts turning, it can actually have plenty of room to go higher. Alright, so that's something to bear in mind. In here, at this point, price is still respecting the supply level, so that's still a valid zone where euro dollar is reacting from, and then eventually can start looking a little bit more to the upside. Now, is this going to be the low for the week? That's kind of a question mark in here. Are you going to have eventually that low being faked out, and then eventually price going to the upside after that? So that's what we are going to pay attention to. Right, so that's something to pay attention. Yeah, again, price is a bit in the middle, just like the dollar index, and I'm going to be waiting a little bit to see price getting closer to some kind of the extremes to eventually look for something else. Yep, that's more of what I'm going to be looking for. Moving along, we have pound dollar. Right, pound dollar, I really like pound dollar at this point where price is reacting from the lows. Euro dollar, the lows are not exactly great, but after such a big move to downside, it's okay to expect some kind of retracement, what we have. But the pound dollar, I actually like this low. All right, I think price is reacting from an interesting level. I do have this line in here underneath, which eventually can be a good level as well, but this one is quite, it's not bad. All right, you do have also some other levels in there, so it's not a bad level. And price starts to break to the upside. All right, this for me is an engulf to the upside. We have kind of a little bit of a structure and then that engulf up. That for me is an engulf to the upside, as long as price doesn't really react from here. All right, if price starts to respect that level, that's a different story. But if price actually leaves that level behind and even creates a new low in here, I'm going to be looking for longs. All right, I'm going to be looking for longs on this pound dollar and anticipating price eventually to continue to move a bit more to the upside. Now, in here, did you close the gap? You may have closed the gap comparing with its level, but not exactly from here. I don't like even some structure in here, so if price does want to go a little bit lower, I would like to see it, and maybe that's an opportunity to look for tomorrow, a potential long in here on the pound. All right. For example, euro dollar, I don't really like where price is at this point to look for that long, but on the pound dollar is much closer to that structure. I prefer it. I do like also the break to go to the upside from here, which eventually price could move a little bit more to the upside again. Yes, there's a lot of structure in here, as you can imagine. Like you can see which this previous support resistance all the way through. There's even maybe this previous high as well in here, where basically price just reacted. So this could eventually actually be a continuation, but I would be I really want to pay attention to see what kind of PI you're going to have in here, right? Because again, just the way price is created that high, even though it's reacting from an interesting previous level of support resistance from all the way back, this for me is kind of an engulf upwards. So that's more of what I'm going to be looking in here. So we'll see. I'm going to be curious to see how price may react from this level. All right, that's pound dollar. Euro pound just continue. So we're looking for those longs again. Unfortunately, it happened kind of with that spike in there, and then makes it straight away, or kind of becomes way too far away from my levels of interest. Good reaction from here, but now it's pushing higher. And yeah, in my opinion, I think this euro pound is trading in between this range. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if price actually eventually goes towards there, or if price even goes slightly first to the downside first before moving there. All right, so that's my take here on euro pound. I think it's quite interesting, and now it already made the move. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Aussie dollar. Yeah, Aussie dollar, that's an interesting one. We have also this break to the upside after the gap around the opening. Good reaction from this supply level, nothing against it. The main thing with the Aussie dollar is that I'm not the biggest fan of where price is reacting in here, right? Yeah, in the lower time frame you may find a level in there where price actually is reacting, but overall this big spike in here, especially if you are looking at this higher time frame like daily or so on, like UHV spike, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm really not the biggest fan. I'll maybe prefer to see price getting a little bit closer and eventually fake out that low before a massive turn from here. But if you are just looking a little bit more into detail within this structure, we have now a break to the upside in here, and you have this structure that is still fresh, and you start having some potential lows in here that could accumulate some liquidity. All right, so eventually this could play out. I'll be much more bullish in here if I actually kind of like where these lows are reacting from. But if I do see some kind of play like this, maybe some kind of break line, break of trend line and so on, maybe then yeah, why not maybe try to attempt a long in here, since we actually have also a high being broken in there. Yeah, so that would be a little bit of my take in here. Euro Aussie reacted quite nicely as well. All right, so it faked out literally that double bottom into that zone, so that was a nice reaction, and since then it's been moving just to the upside again. Similarly, he created this gap in here, and all of a sudden it starts not gap, sorry, this range around this level, and since then it's been moving to the upside, also even breaking this trend line in here. We were looking for that long. Unfortunately, again, it happened with that move, and then kind of in here. There you go. I created a little bit of a fake out of a zone, respect it, and now moving to the upside. Yeah, it can continue, and maybe if it comes down a little bit more, maybe we can have another opportunity to look for new longs as price maybe gets closer to here, and if the Aussie dollar also continue to move more to the upside, maybe after getting closer to here. Yeah, so that's one. Pound Aussie is also approaching an interesting zone. All right, something to bear in mind. Kind of getting a little bit closer to this level. It's nice to see that, that there is a little bit of movement in here. And then we go into New Zealand. New Zealand also looks nice. All right, so New Zealand is approaching New Zealand is approaching this those lows in here. All right, after taking out the liquidity, of basically taking out this double bottom, we saw some reaction in here, but nothing really special at this point. Price still respected this next structure. We're still a bit more of a bearish sentiment in here, with the possibility eventually price does want to go slightly lower, then you start aiming towards here. Until then, yeah, until then, I'm going to continue to just monitoring in here New Zealand to see what will happen. All right, yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see a potential long from here. Mm, perfect. Now, Aussie yen, right? So that's another one. Again, in my opinion, this looks like kind of an engulf to the downside from here, and there's maybe much more room to go. Then you fake out that level, and since then, price hasn't really reacted back into this structure in here, which is something that we can keep an eye on and track to see if eventually price will go there or not. Then continuing with the yen pairs, right? So dollar yen also reacting from here. Again, the gap, close the gap and move to the downside. Again, I do like that extreme in there. Just similar, we do have this engulf down as well. So I am expecting eventually this dollar yen to continue to push lower. So yeah, we'll see. Like if the yen index does go and break these highs, getting closer to the other extreme, then we are going to have also this move in here to downside on the dollar yen. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Yep, so let it go. The other yen pairs as well, like euro yen and so on, kind of just a little bit in the range, almost didn't move today. Again, we had that big sell-off on Friday, price reacting from an interesting level, to be honest, a bit in the middle, but an interesting level. And since then, price is just basically correcting out the move in here, and we'll see, right? We'll see if they're going to use basically this kind of supply level to push price down. I can we'll see if actually the traders will eventually do that. Yeah, I need a bit more involvement in here on the yen pairs, euro yen, pound yen as well. Even though pound yen is getting really close to this low, already a good reaction from here, but we didn't really manage to break above this level, which is something that I was looking for. So since we didn't really manage to break it, perhaps we can have a continuation to the downside. All right, now that we basically are moving like that, definitely that you can have a little bit more room to downside in here on the pound yen. Yeah, you didn't really have a break to the upside in there. All right, so we'll see. Overall, bigger picture still moving lower. Next, we go into, yeah, we can look at CAD yen as well. Not really much. Again, looking for price eventually to get closer to those extremes one more time. Basically, those levels are now being held, and we'll see what's going to happen. And then we have dollar CAD. Right, so dollar CAD again, gap already closed the gap. It was an interesting one. It did manage to break below that low, which increases a little bit the question mark of what's next in here, right? Looks like an engulf to the downside. So we'll see if price, if this is enough actually for price to start moving even lower. Yeah, good reaction initially from here. We'll see. And this is a nice engulf to the downside. Again, if price even wants to get closer to here, it would be perhaps even better sell opportunity. That's definitely a small engulf down, which eventually can push price a little bit further down. Looking at the euro card, right? So euro card, good reaction, kind of since from that level as well. Yeah, this was a zone. There you go. Price already breaking everything here and getting into the next levels. Yeah, and then we have also pound cut, which is also getting really close to that level. Yeah. We'll see what's going to happen here on pound CAD. Yeah, price already fake out that level, can get closer to here. Then there's more room to downside as well, right? So we can have a little bit of a bounce, but eventually pound CAD looks like it's going to continue to move a bit further down. Now looking at the dollar franc Swiss, right? It's another one that we're looking for that potential short. And again, price just spiked or gapped to the downside. This was a great level. All right, price reacting from here is a great level. Then you have the next one in there as well. So that, but this level in here is quite good. And there you go. And dollar franc Swiss moving really nicely to the downside, not really retracing that much. Just reacting from this zone in there. So we'll see. We'll see what's next. Again, if price does go quite closer to that level, perhaps you can look for another sell. At this point, looking for price to at least fill this range in here, and who knows if it's not even going closer to that zone in there. Gold had a massive sell-off. All right, that was another level that you're looking for price to go slightly higher than that. Again, overnight, really good opportunity, a kind of a strong move to the downside in there. And there you go, right? Filling out this price in a compression way. And now basically feeling free to just go all the way through to the other side. Now we may have that level, basically where price is reacting right now. Yeah, eventually price can even go closer to this level as well. Yeah, interesting move in here on gold. Right. Yeah, let it go a little bit more to downside in here. That's basically what I'm going to be anticipating in here on gold again. We did manage to break below that level. So that can still open the door a little bit further down. Price can definitely bounce between this level in here. Yeah, but interesting, really strong move to downside in here on gold after that move to the upside in a compression way. Silver is also kind of moving a little bit more. Yeah, you'll see. With respect to that level, of course, you do have this one in here. We do have also that break to the downside, which may open the door for price to actually go further down in here. So that's something to look at. And then oil was a great setup, right? So price actually created this zone in there. Then it did manage to break below the low. Again, just the zone on the left side was not the best one. You can find a little bit of structure in here. But it was not exactly the best one. But then in the lower time frame, we actually had quite an interesting move, right? We did manage to fake out or break below that level, start opening the door for price to go even further down. We already had a low being broken as well, and all of a sudden it starts opening the door for price to go all the way through, and perhaps even getting closer to that level, right? So again, that's a nice supply, nice reaction, and price just moved then to the downside, like in a compression way. Again, Brent basically the same. Yeah. So now just let it get closer a little bit to this level. That's basically it. So that's basically it for tomorrow. Again, in terms of opportunities, I can see the dollar continue to move a little bit more to the downside. In terms of longs, I could fantasize the idea of looking for the pound, which is a little bit closer to the lows. Euro, is it going to close the gap? Question mark. Or is going to hold today's low? Is going to hold in there and start moving to the upside from where it is, right? Again, just it's completely opposite on the dollar index, and that's maybe what you can look for. Some other potential longs on euro on dollar pairs, right? Maybe New Zealand dollar could be quite interesting of a zone. Potentially look for those longs. It's slightly closer to the lows, and then you have New Zealand interest rate decision the day after. So if you actually get a good position today and the price starts moving in your favor, perhaps you can have a great trade opportunity in here. All right. Otherwise, if prices keep staying at around your price level or entry level, then maybe you can close it. So in order not to be exposed to the risk of the interest rate overnight. What else? We have dollar CAD. It's a bit in a range. We did manage to break below it. Eventually, again, anticipating price to go further down, but before that, it could go slightly higher first. We have the yen pairs as well. Again, dollar yen at this point a bit close to the lows. I'll prefer to go slightly higher before looking for a new short. In there, we have the indices. Quite interesting. S&P respecting the high and not really managing to break it, and at this point breaking some structure. So it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to have more bearishness from where it is, or eventually breaking the all-time highs. Crypto, well, Bitcoin still ranging around between or close to the 100k, and now actually went a little bit lower. Yeah, cut pairs in there. Oil, interesting move to the downside. So as it gets closer, maybe eventually we can look for some kind of long opportunity. Again, is literally trying to trade this range on oil. That's where price has been trading from. This is a nice reaction, not exactly kind of the extreme, so there's maybe even potential move to the upside, but now I just feel all this compression in here, and I'm curious to see how price may react from this level, or what's going to happen around there. Gold, strong move to downside, so let it play out a little bit until it gets perhaps closer to this 2,500 and something. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow again. Good luck for tomorrow trading session. Bye bye.